Good day, ladies and gentlemen. You know who I am. You know why you're here. You saw the title, and we're going to get right into it because there's a lot to cover. Although I really don't got anything to add to the conversation that ain't already there. That's kind of the frank situation of it. Is there is just nothing left to say at this point that hasn't been said already, right? There's a lot to say. Don't get me wrong. Anger, frustration, really anything you want to say has already been said. That's where I'm getting at. So, I sat here almost a year ago telling you that's it. That's all, I'm done. So by no means am I calling this a comeback. By no means is this a start of something else. This is just me clarifying a couple of things because I feel like a lot of what people misunderstand about me is that, right, there can't be anything outside of me other than, of course, the Oilers. So, that said, yes, I'm talking the Oilers today. That said, yes, there's a lot to dive into. That said, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for anything I have done in the past year. I am very proud of myself. I am very encouraged by what I've achieved in the past year, and I will explain that all January 26th on Bell Let's Talk Day, because you can guarantee, yes, I'm not doing this, but I'm still doing this, and I will be doing that on January 26th. So, we find ourselves, I don't even know what the losing streak's at, nor do I care. I know it's beyond almost to 15, actually, beyond double digits, but almost 15 with Dave Tippett behind the bench. That's where I want to start. If you follow me on social media, if you've seen the community tab, you know where I stand, right? The easiest move the Oilers can do. I'm not saying it's the cure-all. I'm not even saying it is the correct move. But the easiest move the Oilers can make, and the most obvious one, is to fire Dave Tippett, right? That's plain Jane. You need to change something somewhere that matters. Firing Dave Tippett is that something somewhere that matters. Now, obviously, issues run a lot deeper than that. Go up into the press boxes, right? All of a sudden you've got, yes, Ken Holland, very much so held liable for everything that's happened this year. But the interesting thing about this is where I get into it a lot with friends, is that it's not necessarily 100% Ken Holland. Yes, you can blame him for this, that, and the other thing. You always can blame a general manager for whatever you like about your hockey team or whatever you don't like, because obviously he's the guy that signs the papers, right? The coach doesn't sign the papers. The coach puts together a lineup, but the GM signs the papers. So everything that the team is ultimately does fall on the general manager. I get that. However, right, nobody was blaming Ken Holland when we were, 16-7 or 16-5, whatever the heck the record was way back then. But guess what, right? I was out there on Twitter calling for Dave Tippett to be fired after the first two bad losses after the big start to the year when we were up number one in the standings. Why? Because deployment, right? Deployment is the biggest issue I have with Ken Holland's coach, Dave Tippett. Sorry, I butchered that. Trust me, right? Out of practice. We'll get there. But the biggest problem I have with Dave Tippett being deployment is it's just a matter of not having the contextual awareness of what his players are good at, right? Obviously, you look at Brandon Pierlini on the top line against Florida. You can say we outshot Florida. You can say we did whatever. I didn't watch the game, and frankly, I don't care because it's 6-0. You could have done 100 things right. Guess what? You still lost 6-0. If you have positive takeaways from a 6-0 loss, check up here because there ain't one, even if there are some. So, right, that's the problem in that. But Pierlini's top 6 in that game, I believe. He's on the wing with McDavid. Pierlini is not top 6 material. He is not a needle mover on the top line. He's got a great, tremendous shot. He's scored some tremendous looking goals off that shot this season. Problem is, that's not where he scores his goals. He is not a top line scorer, right? Obviously, if you have McDavid on the ice, that is not going to warrant the third D pairing being out there for the opposition. That's going to mean the team's best D is out there. And I'm not talking just in the Florida game, right? I'm talking if you extend this out and play Pierlini on the top line for 6 games, more often than not, the advanced analytics are going to show, even if I'm just talking out my butt during the Florida game, is the fact that the top D pairs are going to be out there against McDavid. So, right, Dolynny has scored some tremendous goals on the fourth line. But why, right? He's got a tremendous shot that creates a matchup disadvantage for the defense if you've got your third pair as the opposition against the Oilers' fourth line when Dolynny's in shooting the puck. Fair? But when you've got him against the top D pairs, that matchup disadvantage disappears because right now top D pairs are shutting down Connor McDavid. It ain't going to be a problem to shut down Brendan Dolynny, who played in Europe last year. Just saying, right? That's where we go. So that's just a more recent kind of example of contextual awareness of his players that Dave Tippett does not have, which is, in a deployment sense, a bad thing, a very bad thing. So, right, and obviously you can talk about Devon Shore on the second line 2-3 weeks ago, whatever it was back then. You can talk about anything, right? Playing Barrie with Nurse after game 2 or 3 this year. How many times did that happen? Playing Barrie on the top power play unit. You can say how much Gullickson might be involved to that extent, but I'm sorry, right? If you're the head coach and you know you've got a stud in Evan Bouchard, I don't know how you don't override your assistants and say, no, this is the way it's happening. I'm sorry. Bouchard on the top power play unit. Simply, right? The hesitancy to get Stuart Skinner into the net earlier in the season when Mike Smith first went down. That's a pretty big red flag. I know me and a lot of my friends were very concerned of, man, why isn't Skinner playing? Is there something seriously wrong with Stuart Skinner that says we cannot afford to play him and we have to overplay Koskinen instead? We know that story. It's not a good story when you overplay Koskinen, and instead we're out there doing it to avoid playing Stuart Skinner, or so it seemed. Now Skinner, obviously, right, has not reaped the benefits of having a good team in front of him in his last, say, 3-4 starts, as I think they've probably lost all of them, and it's part of that 15-game or whatever losing streak with Dave Tippett behind the bench. But go back to mid-December when Tippett was out with COVID protocol, and you look at those 2 wins the Oilers put up compared to every other game they've played since and before with Dave Tippett on the bench. That was a completely different team in those 2 games. There is no arguing that. So, right, number 1 gripe right now, fire Dave Tippett. Number 2 is kind of going back to general manager Ken Holland, right? Is, oh, he doomed us, he screwed us with the cap, we had all this cap space, he screwed us, oh, it was a bad management, whatever you want. I'm going to give you some numbers. I'm going to give you some numbers, and I'm going to give you some points for those players. And you just tell me what's going on here, right? You tell me what I'm getting at. Nugent Hopkins has 26 points this year. He's been injured for a long while now. Yes, Puljujärvi has 25 points right this season. He's making $1.175 million. Kailer Yamamoto, 13 points. Warren Foegele, the new addition, 13 points. Ryan McLeod, starting to heat up more lately, looking more confident with every game. He's a rookie, of course that's going to happen. 6 points. Evan Bouchard, who has 2 points on the power play, has 19 points this season. Correct? Correct. Those are all facts. I looked them up. Trust me. I came prepared. That totals up to 102 points in the Oilers lineup for less than $12.5 million in salary cap. You get where I'm going? Do ya? Okay. Connor McDavid has 53 points so far this season in 35 games for a $12.5 million salary cap hit. See where I'm going? Right? This is not a Ken Holland problem. This is an NHL problem. The Oilers would not have cap space issues. The Oilers would not have mismanagement of the cap because there'd be so much more cap to mismanage that it'd be almost physically impossible had everything gone differently. And that's prior to Ken Holland getting hired even. Right? 2018, you look at when I started, there was so much beaming hope in the NHL. It was finally the NHL looked like in the next 5 years, we're going to take that step from here to hear that the NBA did several years prior to 2018. It was going to be glorious. Then you proceed to have 2018, 2019, right? That year was not going to move the needle. That year was not at all going to move the needle in terms of that 5-year plan, but it was part of the transition, right? You can't start nowhere. You have to start somewhere. And that was 18-19. Obviously, the new NHL TV deal was coming in ahead of the 2021 season, right? That was going to be a massive gift for the NHL. That's where I'm saying, right? We were about to go from here to here, and that was a big part of it. But had everything stayed normalized as well, there would have been consistent sellouts across the NHL from 2018 to today. There would not have been anything. However, right, something that's ruined my life many times over the past 2 years, something that has affected us all, no matter how much you want to say you're not affected or are affected, it's changed everything for the past 2 years. I don't need to talk about the elephant in the room. You know exactly where I'm going. That has absolutely wreaked havoc with that 5-year plan. The salary cap has stayed stagnant since pretty much 18-19, right? Maybe it's gone up $1 million in that off season. While you talk about it right now, you've missed technically 2 big salary cap increases, right? After that TV deal last year, if you would have had a full NHL season, that salary cap, it shouldn't be at 82.5. It should be close, very close to 90 million if everything had gone according to plan, based on the way I saw the NHL's 5-year plan back in 18-19, right? It was supposed to just go gangbusters. So now all of a sudden you talk about Connor McDavid and how that screws the Oilers. It's not McDavid's fault he got signed to that contract. Heck, it's not even anyone's fault that he got signed to that contract. He very well deserves $12.5 million. That is not the point of what I just listed to you a few minutes ago. What the point of that is saying kind of the situation, right? Obviously, Connor McDavid at $12.5 million on an $82.5 million salary cap is a much different percentage than Connor McDavid at $12.5 million on a $92 million salary cap, right? You're talking $10 million difference. While you start dividing, guys, I do a lot of dividing at work every day. You're going to find big differences in numbers if you do the math on percentages based that way. So, right, that's where you're looking, oh, the Oilers have none of this. The Oilers can't afford goaltending. They can't do this. It's not a general manager failure completely. Yes, you can always blame the manager. I said that off the start. I'm not going to put my head in the sand and pretend like all's fine and dandy, because it's not. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking to you if it's not fine and dandy. But again, this is not stuff that has not been said already. I'm just repeating stuff and basically putting where I feel on it. That's all I'm going. But so, right, that's a big hit when you're paying, 6 guys $12.5 million, and they almost have double the points Connor McDavid does in your lineup. That's a big problem, right? But yes, obviously, hey, everybody craps on the other Oilers other than McDavid and Draisaitl, but for $12.5 million, including Nuge, you're paying 6 guys to almost outscore McDavid by double, and the Oilers have no depth. That, my friends, is actually a nice little thing to look at. I'm actually quite impressed by that, because I went to do this math last night, and I'm like, this isn't going to be a great example, right? This isn't going to be anything special. This isn't going to do me any good, but these numbers are good. These numbers are really good. So that's that. Now, obviously, too, you get into it, right? Obviously, in my tenure on YouTube, I used to get very into it with fans and stuff, just based on, don't say stupid stuff, right? Don't be stupid. Don't be ignorant. Don't be arrogant. Don't be dumb. I mean, yes, I played a character. I can't deny that, because what you see on camera every day on Dolynny TV there for those 3 years is not the guy behind the camera. If you think that's who I am in real life, we got a problem, all right? That's something we got to hash out, you and me. But no, so I played a character on camera for 3 years, right? Play it up, play up the anger, play up the happy, play up everything, because most of the time, if I'm living my life, I'm on the straight and middle. not up, not down, because those extremes, guys, you've listened to enough Bell Let's Talk videos from me. Those extremes are what scare me. So, right? That's tough. But right now, everyone, even if you are saying you're a realist, oh, they can turn around, or you're a realist, this season's gone, or the season's over, or oh my God, everything's so terrible, or oh my God, everything's fine, there is no correct answer right now. That's what I'm trying to get at, is no matter who you are, no matter what you're saying, ain't nobody got it right. Because there is no correct answer. Because if there was, you would have to figure it would already have been done by now, right? You don't just go out and lose 15 straight games with a head coach behind the bench just for the hell of it. Blame Holland all you want, being an old senile man. A lot of other people's words, not mine. I'm just quoting. Blame Tippett for being an absolute moron. Again, other people's words, not mine. You can check it. I'm not the first one to say that. Right? Is you can blame Connor McDavid for having a lack of leadership. You can blame Darnell Nurse for being overpaid. You can blame Draisaitl for being disengaged and pissy with the media. You can blame the depth for not being there. You can blame any, right? There's a million things to blame right now. But there's no one thing. There's no 5 things we can do guaranteed, right? There is no, hey, all right, so if we do this, 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 and this, we're going to start winning. 100%. We're going to go on a winning streak that matches the losing streak. That is not a thing. Because there are no guarantees in life, right? No guarantees in hockey especially. So that's where, I'm not saying it's a lost season, because obviously it's not yet. But it's just you have to smarten up and realize no matter where you stand on the Oilers right now, there is no common ground, there is no quick fixes, there is no nothing, because right, everything I've laid out here leads one into another, and the Oilers' problems, we haven't even talked about goaltending, and that's a massive issue right now. But you know what? It's not a massive issue when you're scoring a ton of goals, and the Oilers aren't doing that either right now, right? Goaltending's not an issue when you're playing solid, sound defense. Oilers aren't doing that right now. Giving up 6 goals, if you want to blame the goalie on all 6 goals, be my guest, but unfortunately, like that needs to be taken care of right away if you have a goaltender giving 6 goals up in a game, and clearly that is not what everything is saying, right? So I don't know. Yeah, I could go around in circles. I could honestly go around in circles for hours on this. I haven't said a word on YouTube about the Oilers directly, naming the Oilers this season. And I have a lot to say. But it ain't worth the time. Right? I've wasted a lot of my Saturday on this already. Just because I feel I owe it to you guys to explain stuff. Because, right, you talk about it, right? When I pointed at my jerseys the other night in that 6-second video and said these guys are a joke, I meant that. They're a joke. Does that mean I'm any less of a fan? Does that mean I don't want my team to be good? Does that mean I don't want my team to be worth watching? Absolutely not. But when you go from first to worst, essentially, worst record since being first, yeah, that's a joke. When you've got Connor McDavid on your team, Leon Draisaitl on your team. That's a complete joke. That should only exist in jokes, right? That should be something a Flames fan says, oh, you're first? You'll go to worst right away. Like, that's a chirp at best, right? A joke. Get under your skin kind of thing. And that's what I meant, right? That's all I meant, was just to poke fun at the situation and kind of, right? What are these guys doing? Right? These guys are a joke. Well, right? But unfortunately, right now, everyone's so hypersensitive to the fact of you're either with us or against us. And honestly, ain't nobody got it right. If you're with the Oilers right now and rah, oh, we'll just keep losing until we start winning, great, good for you. I've been there, done that. That was my entire career on YouTube, was rah, 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 even though we're losing, we'll start winning, don't you worry. And I've been clowned mercilessly the entire time for it. And you know what? I don't care. That's honestly why I'm not posting videos anymore. Is frankly, I just do not care enough. Because honestly, I enjoy my freedom now. I'm very proud of what I've achieved over the past year without doing YouTube. So ladies and gentlemen, let me not take any more of your Saturday. I apologize for rambling for as long as I can. I can't even read my computer to see how long I've rambled for. But in any of this, other than that weird stat I came up with for 6 players combined in McDavid's salary, you tell me what has not already been said. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Have yourself a good day.